Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good to see you guys coming on for our weekly book study that we are doing for the next 2 more weeks. So we have this week and then 2 more weeks. And we are studying my newest book, Healing Your Past. So good to see you guys jump on. We'll give people a minute or so before we jump into the content. I hope you're having a really good week. We are, both my babies are sick. They have the flu, but we are managing along. So good to see you guys coming on. So we are live on YouTube and in our Facebook mentoring group. So I'll be going like this a little bit just because I'm looking at both screens, especially when it comes to the Q&A time. So good to have all of you guys on. Good to see you guys in the mentoring group as well, jumping on. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Type where you are logging in from. I'd love to see where everybody's logging in from, especially here on YouTube. Thank you for the compliments. I quickly threw myself together. Did my 20 minutes. I don't know if you guys watched my live. I did. It was on Instagram and Facebook a couple weeks ago on doing certain things consistently over a period of time. I'm on this kick of just making like micro changes in my life and not being so overwhelmed by trying to make really big changes all at once. So I did my 20-minute walk today. I said I was going to do those 3 times a week to make sure that my body's moving. So good to see you streaming in from Orlando and New Jersey and Memphis. Awesome. Wilson, North Carolina. Is that Luther? Good to see you on. Awesome. Let's see where else. Newport News, Maryland, San Antonio, Texas. Let's see what else here on Facebook. Trent, New Jersey, Virginia Beach, Virginia on lunch break. Yes, I figured these 12 o'clocks would be quick lunch break takeaways for a lot of people. That's why we do it at this time. Also because it's just really difficult to do it late at night or at nighttime. So good to see all of you guys on. So I start traveling again February 22nd. My first event is actually here in North Carolina, in Sanford, North Carolina. We're going to post my travel schedule on Dr.Faith.com as well as in the groups. And then after that, we are in Los Angeles, March 7th and 8th. And then the following week, we are, I don't know, in March, I'm in 4 places. So I'll post it so you guys, we can make sure to see. And then people are asking about states that are not on the graphic. We only post my travel schedule 3 months at a time. So some people are asking about like New York or Washington State. When we post from May to July, you'll be able to see, and your state may be on there. And then we'll post again from July till September. So we generally, when I have our graphic designer make the graphic, it only has the speaking engagements for the first 3 months, because I think it's overwhelming, and I think 3 months is plenty of time for people to plan if they plan to be at one of the events. The other thing is we can't put the links of where to register and all of that on the flyer, and half of the times I don't know because it's not my event. I'm just coming there to speak. So you can usually Google the event and you will find out. I did remember March 19th and 20th. I am in Houston at All Things Her Conference, and then March 21st I am in something empowerment seed something. Anyway, we'll post it so that people can see. All right, let's get more. Someone says, wanted to know what explosions in dreams mean. I'm not talking about dreams on this live, so I won't really go into that, but we do have our dream interpretation, I can't talk, interpretation course coming up. Registration will be open January 25th. So if you always want to know what your dreams mean, this will be an opportunity to take the course, and you will be able to learn all those. Do you have a church that you partner with in Savannah, Georgia? Not necessarily partner with, but we are. I have friends who have a church really close to there. I can't remember it from the top of my head, the name of it. So I won't be very helpful. You can email us and I can try and see if I can remember it. All right, let's go on to chapter 2. Looks like most people are on. So we're going to start going through this. And obviously, I want you guys to buy the book. And you can pick it up on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, or AskDrFaith.com. We have the electronic version there that will be emailed to you. So please pick it up. But today we're talking about what does love look like. Last week we talked about toxic love, toxic environments, how that in order for us to heal from our past, we have to have a really great foundation of what mature love looks like. Because if we're clear about what mature love looks like, then it's going to help shape how we react to our past and as well as our present. So a lot of us have a difficult time relationally and moving forward because our understanding of love is fractured and it's broken. So today I'm going to go over some of the traits of what immature love looks like, and then start going into some of the steps in which you can begin to heal and grow a stronger foundation and go from there. All right. Someone said chapters 2 and 3 were life-changing chapters for me. Oh, awesome. And guys, when you get a chance, please give a review on Amazon. That would be awesome. Awesome. I'm always encouraged to hear that. So thank you for sharing that. All right, so we go into how immature love is very much connected to rejection. So I'm going to read a section from the book to you guys, and then we're going to break down the main points, and I'll just teach off the cuff from there. But rejection comes in many forms, and many of us have experienced it. The main goal of rejection is to cause us to see ourselves, others, and God in a manner that doesn't align with Scripture. So what the enemy is trying to do is convolute the understanding that you are loved by God, that He has a plan for your life, that you've been set apart. No matter who you are, no matter your background, no matter what you've been through, God has an intentional design for everybody that He has created, and that is that you are loved, you are made to belong. So the enemy early on tries to put things in motion that would cause you to believe lies, that would keep you away from community, that would keep you away from walking with God, that will keep you away from really learning how to live for God and to love God. Most of what we do and how we behave is connected to self-preservation, but we cannot preserve ourselves and love others at the same time. When the Holy Spirit gave me this and I was writing, I was like, this is amazing. What that means is you cannot be so focused on preserving, meaning protecting, making sure you're cared for, making sure you're loved, making sure nobody does you wrong, making sure no one betrays you again. You can't be so focused on that and still be able to love people. It's not possible, because your focus is going to be more so on how do I protect myself, how do I care for myself, than it is on how can I make sure that I'm actually present in my relationships and not just taking, but also giving. Okay, so we're always going to look to preserve ourselves. We will always win. And it's natural. Science talks about like self-preservation, where, mothers and fathers fight to make sure that their DNA in their children is passed on, like survival of the fittest. But as believers and even as human beings, we shouldn't be living in a mode that it's always about like surviving. If you're always on survival mode, there's something that's going on that's a lot deeper than just a surface level. So the process of walking in mature love involves examining the areas we have felt abandoned, rejected, and left out, and how those experiences have shaped our views of the world. If we examine the fruit of rejection, it is the total opposite of what 1 Corinthians says. And 1 Corinthians 13 talks about love, and it talks about love being patient. When people are immature in their love, when people struggle with rejection, they're not very patient with other people. Love is kind. They may try to be kind, but oftentimes it's so they can get something from it. Love does not envy. Love does not boast. So if you look at your life and you look at how your relationships are, and you look at how you're relating to people, if it is the total opposite of what 1 Corinthians says, then it means that you are still learning how to mature and grow in love. All right. So rejection, and this is what Dr. Arlen Epperson says. I love this quote. It says, rejection and lack of self-worth are interchangeable. Meaning, most times we're not able to move forward because we don't feel like we're worthy of anybody investing time, effort to help us move forward. But it has to start with you. Like, you have to feel like you're worth it. You have to feel like you're valuable. You have to feel like the Lord has a clear plan for your life. Therefore, you're worth investing the time and the energy to get better. All right, so here are some symptoms of okay? So a withdrawn personality, all right? When our idea of love is convoluted or mixed, we tend to keep to ourselves because loving others may be too painful, or we simply don't love ourselves, so we don't know how to begin to truly connect with other people. So you may have a personality that's really withdrawn and you're like, oh, this is really just who I am. But the truth is you may not have a clear sense of how loved you are by God, and therefore you don't feel like you can bring anything to the table, and you don't know how to connect with other people. And next one is a hunger or starvation for love. So these are feelings, consistent feelings of unworthiness and abandonment. Someone says symptoms of what? I'm talking about what immature love looks like. When a person is not mature in their love, you will see that in how they react, in how they behave. You see it in their relationship. So right now I'm giving you guys symptoms of immaturity. Symptoms of immaturity, all right? Hunger or starvation for love is the second one that I was giving you, and these are all in the book. It is really interesting because rejection makes us starved for love, causing us to long for it. However, due to our inability to properly connect with people, our deep need to be loved often drives people away. And I was sharing this on Sunday. I was preaching that oftentimes when we don't know what solid love looks like, what healthy love looks like, then we hunger for it. And that's how some people end up in toxic relationships. That's how some people end up with narcissists. That's how some people end up in cycles, because they haven't really defined what love looks like. And love is not a thing. Love is a person. Love is Jesus Christ. Love is our Father. And scriptures lay out a clear outline of what love looks like. If you're dating someone and you're wondering, should I marry this person? Go to 1 Corinthians 13 and say, out of these, how many does he have? Is he patient? Is he kind? Is he long suffering? Is he humble? Does he not boast? Or is she this? Is she that? Test it alongside that. There's a clear meter. And so for us, when we're hungering and we're starving for love, we're often looking at it in the context of what society says love is, or what we thought love was. And we keep getting into these relationships that are unhealthy. And so it's not until you correct your understanding of love that you could actually love people well, and you could even love yourself well. And this is, once again, just foundational stuff to healing your past. Because one of the ways that you heal your past is that you can say, you know what, I messed up, or I did not do this well. I failed in my past, but I love myself enough to forgive myself. I love myself enough to move forward. And not only that, do I not only love myself, but I love other people enough to give them a better version of myself than I was in the past. What happens is that we hold on to whatever version that we created, whether it was by, happenstance or circumstances, or through what people put us through. We want to bring that into our present, and we keep bringing the same broken, the same, unfulfilled person over and over into our present, and we keep walking ourselves into cycles. All right, when you are still developing your love, or you have an immature love walk, you have non-lasting relationships. So what happens is that you don't have any deep long-term relationships. If we can, you can't really go back and say, I've been friends with this person for this long. Most of your relationships are very surfacey because you don't want to go too in, or you don't want them to come too into you too deep, because you don't feel comfortable with who you are. And so you keep everything very surfacey. Rejection makes it difficult for us to trust. If we want to mature our love, we must deal with this lack of trust. So part of not having long-lasting relationships is we don't trust people. We don't trust that they have their best intentions for us. We don't trust that God has best intentions for us. So he's going to give us friendships that are solid and that are meaningful. And so part of learning how to mature in love, learning how to heal, is saying, God, I'm going to believe you when you say that you will speak to me if someone is unhealthy. Because I tell people all the time, the issue with trusting is not about you not being able to trust people. It's about you not being able to trust God. Because if you trust God and you trust that you hear his voice and his heart, then you're going to take risks with your relationships. You're going to take risks with your partnerships, and you're going to be willing to step out, because you know that if something is unhealthy, God will tell you. God can lead you into all truth. But when we're immature in our love walk, we're always focused on just making sure we're protected and we're safe, that we miss out on relationships that could be really, really helpful. All right. Can't accept the love of others. So when people are struggling with maturing in love, they can't accept the love of others. So they have a propensity to earn acceptance by being good or hardworking. So what else we see is that their relationships are based on what they can do. And that's how you get suckered by these narcissists. You get suckered by controlling leaders. You get suckered by a boss who stomps over you, because you have built your identity around what you can do and what you bring to the table. So you automatically assume that your value is only based on what you bring to the table. And so over and over and over, you get into these relationships where you are not able to really love well. You get into these relationships where you are giving and giving and giving, and people are taking and taking. And it's because you don't understand that your value is much more than your perfectionism or your gifts or what you bring to the table. So a person who's immature in their love doesn't understand that they're worth loving beyond what they bring to the table. They're worth loving beyond their skills, beyond their body, beyond their brain, beyond their hair. They're worth more than that. And guess what? People will sniff that out, and they will be so happy to have you as their friends, because they will use you, because you're going to give, you're going to give, you're going to give. They'll be so happy to have you in their church, because they're going to take advantage of you, because you're so longing to be loved and by affirmed that you will do anything for them, and all you feel is drained at the end of the day. And that's all connected to not understanding that love is not just self-seeking. Love is reciprocal. You give love, but you also need to make sure that your relationships are also full of love. So part of healing your past, some of us are not able to heal our past because we're stuck in relationships, we're stuck in partnerships, in friendships that are detrimental to our well-being. But because we think that that is what love is, we keep ourselves in these cycles that keep us in similar relationships and situations that we're trying to get out of. All right? The next one is that we have a tendency to please. With performance-based loves comes people-pleasing. So we've talked about performing, but beyond people performing, people then who are still trying to mature in what a healthy love looks like also struggle with people-pleasing, because they feel like if they please people, then they're going to be loved. And then that is their understanding of love. So even if things don't please them, even if God wants them to do something, but other people want them to do something else, they are more attuned or more likely to do what people want, because they're so starved for love. That goes back to point 3, right? They're so starved for love. And they don't know that they are repeating themselves. Someone said they didn't think they needed this book until they listened to the video. Yeah, you got to pick up the book. So what they end up doing is they keep looking to please, right? Because they're hoping that that is what will get them affirmation. And then this is where fear of man comes in. So people will say, well, I'm struggling with the fear of man. What I want to get over in 2020 is the fear of man. The fear of man is connected to inability to walk in mature love. Because if you love well, right, that means that you say, I love God more than I love myself, and I love others more than I love myself. And if what I'm hearing or God is advising me to do is something that I would normally be afraid of doing because I love him, I'm going to do it. Love is not me doing what people want me to do. Love is doing what God wants me to do. Loving someone doesn't mean doing what they want you to do. Loving someone is creating good boundaries so that you could be emotionally present when they need your support, and then not being taken advantage of or run through the meal. So part of healing your past then is doing that check all the time and looking and saying, do I struggle with people pleasing? Am I struggling with fear? What are the areas in my life right now am I struggling with that have kept me in a secular pattern? All right, the next one is you develop a fake face or masks. We hear people talk about these all the time, that that people are faking, or people have this, they put on a facade. And what happens is we're good at wearing masks, and we're good at wearing and pretending of being people that we're really not. YouTube, I'm so sorry. You give me 1 second. Facebook, the YouTube is having a hard time reconnecting. So hopefully it will reconnect in a minute, or I'm going to have to go back live on there. But we're good at wearing masks and pretending. Our love never feels authentic, and we never fully give of ourselves because we don't know who we are. So what happens is that because we're so good at pretending, and we're so good at wearing masks, we can't have deep relationships. We can't have meaningful relationships. And what that means is that we end up being very isolated. We end up being very alone. We end up feeling like nobody cares for us. Nobody's there for us, and it just keeps us in the same pattern. So you have to really get down to like who you really are and what matters in this season. Like what really matters, what is the most important thing. And you have to be willing to allow God to like walk you through those things, so that when you step forward into your future, you step forward into the plans that God has for you, you are actually fruitful. You are actually fruitful. So I'm going to stop there for today, but I'm going to take some questions. The next chapter goes into the process. Like, so how do we actually heal from here? How do we actually like change? How do we actually begin to heal so that we are healthy in our relationships, so that we are healthy in our friendships? So I am going to go ahead and take some questions on healing your past, developing from immature love to mature love. What does that look like? How do you get to the point where you are comfortable in those relationships? All right. Someone says, shouldn't it be love God, love myself, then love people? No. Scriptures tells us very clearly that all the 10 commandments are hinged on this thing: love God and love others as you love yourself. Love God and love others as you love yourselves. This is the great commandment. Good to see you guys back, YouTube. We lost you, but to love God first, to love others, and then to love yourself. Now, it's really difficult to love others if you don't love yourself very well, but love is always sacrificial. And so a person who is always focused on loving themselves first and then loving others. And this is the movement that's out there. There's this whole self-love movement that's out there, and it's actually very unbiblical. It's very unbiblical. And what I mean by that is you are to love yourself. You are to care yourself, but not at the expense of others. Like, the being a Christian means laying your life down for others. Scripture says, what greater love than this, than a man to lay down his life for his friend? But the problem is, when our love is immature, we don't understand the types of friendships we should lay our life down for. So when people are immature in their love, they end up laying down their life for everybody. And they don't understand that there's wisdom. You have to use wisdom. And what I'm trying to get at is, you have covenant relationships and covenant friendships. These are friendships that God has said, this is somebody I have put in your life. This is somebody I've called you to walk for. This is somebody I walk with. This is somebody I want you to lay down your life for. And you have to be clear about those. And what happens is that people confuse just regular friendships for covenant relationships. One of the ways that you know a friendship is a covenant friendship is because there's a level of reciprocity, right? And so, yes, immature love has no boundaries. A level of reciprocity, meaning that you understand that this friendship, there is something that both of you guys are getting from it. And therefore, I'm willing to lay down. Now, while that's one part of it, Scripture also does command us to lay our lives down for our enemies. It says to love our enemies, to bless our enemies. And that's why I use the term mature love, because it is not easy to bless someone who has hurt you. It is not easy to love someone who's an enemy, but loving someone who's an enemy and blessing someone who has hurt you also does not mean that you have to be in relationship with them. Because sometimes people think, oh, well, Christians are supposed to love everybody. That doesn't mean you have to be ran over. That doesn't mean you're a doormat. It means that I'll be willing to help you in any way that I can, as long as I am able to, because I am taught to love. And so it is a delicate balance of maturity where you are aware. And that's why last week I started with examining toxic relationships and examining toxic friendships, because if you don't understand what that looks like, then you will constantly be giving of yourself in these toxic environments, and those environments are not giving anything back. But in the environments that are healthy, the people, the relationships God gives you that are healthy, you have to lay your life down for them. Someone said, what does boundaries look like? That looks different for every person. Boundaries for me means that I put a guard over my time. So because I'm really, really busy, I have time when I work. I have time that is for my family. I have time when I travel. I have time when I stay at home. I have strict boundaries. I don't answer every phone call. I don't give out my phone number. That's a boundary for me, right? Because I can't have all kinds of people calling me. I don't answer certain emails in my inbox that are like 3 chapters long, because the moment I cross that boundary, it's now going to encroach in other areas. So what you want to think about when you're thinking about boundaries is what areas in my life, what parameters do I need to set in order to be most effective. When people don't set boundaries, they're not effective. So when a married couple, they don't set boundaries around their in-laws, talking to them and giving them advice about their spouse all day long, right? They're going to have issues in their marriage. And so usually they have improper boundaries if family members are part of the causes of why they're having issues. Some people may have boundary issues because they don't know how to say no. And that's connected to the people pleasing and the stuff that I'm talking about. So they say yes to everything, and then they're not able to really be present for the things that really matter and the things that are really helpful. So therefore, it's encroaching upon their time. I set boundaries on how quickly people get close to me, because I have learned that some people don't have the best intentions. They're either trying to get something or just trying to get close for something, right? And so I have specific boundaries on when and how I let people get close to me. So you've got to figure out what is important for your life, and what's, so some of you guys have mothers that are crazy, or ex-boyfriends or let me say fathers of your children that are crazy. You have to still interact with them because maybe you have children or because they're your mom, right? But you can say, well, I'm not going to talk to you on the phone. We'll only talk face to face. If we have to have an exchange, we'll do it in a public place. Mom, you will call 16 times a day if I don't tell you to stop. So I'm only going to talk to you once a day. You begin to set boundaries that make you more effective. All right. All right. Let's take some questions here. I'm just coming from the people-pleasing perspective, where I've loved people before myself, and as a result, I was burnt out, drained. I had no boundaries. Yep. So I think I've shared that clearly, what that looks like when you have healthy boundaries. What if the friendship you are in is more friction than fellowship? Because when you talk about Jesus, they get offended and defend sin. Well, then maybe, guys, it's okay to give up friendships. I know that some of us have been friends with the same people for 18 years, 20 years, 30 years, and that's really good. But you want to make sure that your friendships, you and your friends, are headed in the same direction. I have friends that were friends with me early on in life that are just not, we don't have anything in common anymore. We're not headed in the same direction. So one of the things that I always ask when people are like, we've been friends for 20 years, I'm going to ask, how have you guys evolved? Because that would mean that all of you have been evolving at the same rate, at the same pace, or all of you are stagnant, because you should be growing and you should be evolving. And so the likelihood of not having the same relationships and the same friendships at some point is huge. But there are some friends that you get to evolve together, and you get to grow together, and you get to mature together. And usually those are the friends that your foundation is Jesus. your foundation is your passion and your love for the Lord, that can weather any single season. The main reason most friendships start going apart is because maybe one becomes more devoted, more focused on the ways of the Lord, and the other doesn't. And if you get to that point, that's okay. And you could also be friends with people where you are connected, once every 3 months or so, but you don't talk every day. And that's fine as well. But choose what works for your environment. Someone said, that's so good, Dr. Faith. There's a difference between a friendship and a covenant relationship. Good. For me, God had me cut off everything recently, including my best friends. It has happened. Sometimes the Lord will cause you to kill dead relationships, things that are dragging you down. And then sometimes he may resurrect them again, or he may just give you new friendships. But the goal should be, I want to please God. I want to honor God with my life. Someone says, is stage fright, fear, man? How do you get past that? Okay, I'm not sure what the question is. The fear of man. Someone's saying, how do you get past that? We're going to hit that next week in our book review. Not just the fear of man, but it's about loving God and loving others and loving yourself. And so if I love God, then I'm not going to worry so much about what people are saying. I'm going to worry more about obeying God. So I'm not going to be afraid of people because I'm more afraid of God. Not afraid that he's going to punish me. But when you love someone, you want to please them, right? And so that becomes a priority. So getting over the fear of man is about really realigning your priorities, realigning who you are in the Lord, and going from there. Someone says it's a scary thing to put people before you, especially for someone who was abandoned. Yeah, you've got to go through healing. And I would encourage you guys, in February, the first week, we are opening up the doors to our online academy called Destiny Training Academy. And in it, we take you through 3 months of inner healing and deliverance. We actually do a group deliverance, but we take you through how to heal father wounds, mother wounds, sibling wounds, how to heal from dysfunctional relationships, how to grow out of all of that. And so if this is an area that you will need to go deep in, that you got layers that you want to work through, I'd encourage you to get on our wait list. It's destinytrainingacademy.com, and get on the wait list. And in February, sign up for that, because really it's layers of years that you have to kind of work through in order to get better. Someone said, guys, sign up. It's awesome. Trust me. So yeah, I would encourage you when the flash sale opens up to take the time and invest yourself in that. All right, I'll take like 3 more questions. My babies are sick, so they're waiting for me downstairs. So let me help you guys through this. How do you learn to be a friend and always weary because I'm scared to get hurt? So learning to be a friend, once again, is learning to trust God. The reason we're afraid of getting hurt is because we're afraid people are going to hurt us. But if you know that God has his best intention for you, and you have learned what his heart and his voice sounds like, when you are in relationships, you're going to look for that. You're going to look for God's heart. You're going to look for God's intention. And so you're going to focus on people that have similar traits as someone who loves God and someone who walks with God. They're not going to be perfect, but they're going to be people that love God and they have the fruit of the Spirit. And you are going to be honest when you get in these friendships and say, you know what, I'm not really good at this friendship thing, but I want to give this a try. Or I've been hurt before, but I want to give this a try. Be honest about where you are at in your relationships, and also be clear about your expectations. You know why people get hurt in relationships? Because they have false expectations. You get into friendships, you get into relationships, and you expect it to be like this and like that and like that, but you never clearly communicated it. I'm actually, our first group of DTA students, Destiny Training Academy students, are getting ready to go into a whole 2 months where I'm going to be teaching on relationships. So we're going to teach on friendships for the next several months, but you have to set your expectations very, very clear, even in your friendships, because the reason we get hurt, the reason we get offended, the reason we get mad is because we expected something we did not communicate. All right. Did you share how to get past a friendship where you finally learned that the friendship was one-sided and that you were the doormat and you're always giving? The way you get past by it is saying, oh my gosh, thank you, Lord. I had an opportunity to bless this person and give and pour into their life. I can no longer do that. So I bless them and I move on. And that's how you get past it. That's it. You got hurt and you got used because you didn't know better. But now that you know better, you bless the people and you move on. That doesn't mean you're afraid now to love people, but now you are aware that in a relationship, in a friendship, it should be both sided. That doesn't mean, every time you call, then they have to call. It just means that you get something from the friendship as well as they get something. All right. When God has you let go of a 10-year plus, I just stopped talking with them, but I wanted to do a closure call to explain that. Okay, this is what I say. Every relationship doesn't require closure. Closure is just one of those things where everybody's like, I need closure. No, you don't. No, you don't. If the relationship is done and it's unhealthy, or you're unable to get back to talk with them, there's no need for closure. You could do closure on your own. I bless them. I release them. That's closure. If the person is willing to talk to you, talk to them and explain. But if you have to explain yourself after 10 years, they never really understood you. So there's some things in life that you're going to go through that people don't apologize for, that people don't explain their actions, that people don't, come back and say sorry for. And you cannot get stuck in your past because you're waiting for an apology. That's good. Don't get stuck in your past because you're so busy waiting for an apology. Just closure. I bless them. I release them. I bless them. I release them. Move on. I have a covenant friendship and the person is very broken and it's draining the life out of me. I want to disconnect because of dysfunction. I'm trying to honor God. What makes it covenant then? What makes it covenant? If it's dysfunctional, it's dishonorable, what makes it covenant? Now, I understand that I have best friends, and there are seasons where my best friends have a hard time. And it's my job to be there for them and to support them. But the best friend then gets out of that hard season. And when I have a hard time, they're there to support me and they're able to encourage me. Covenant, I don't know what your definition of covenant is, but covenant is mutual. It means that there is something in this person that God has put for me, and there's something in me that God has put for them. It's dysfunction in her life, not in our relationship. So if it's draining you, then the dysfunction in her life is also getting in your relationship. Because if not, she would be able to have the boundaries, or he, to be able to help you. But you also may need to understand that this is just a season, that this person has dysfunction in their life right now. And my job is to not be so focused on how drained and how tired I am, but my job is to be a support system to them. And I know that this season's going to pass. But if their whole life has been dysfunctional and the dysfunction is seeping into your relationship, then you need to really assess, like, what level of covenant is this? That doesn't mean you leave your friend when they're down, but you need to understand that it may not be what you think that it is. All right. How do you start a friendship with someone that you feel led to? Hey, girl, you want to have coffee? Hey, I love your shirt. Where did you get it? Hey, I really, love your spirit. Can we talk? I mean, that's how you start a friendship. And when you get together, listen to their story more before you talk about yourself. All right. I love the fact that you shared some boundaries. Some people act like setting boundaries selfish. Oh no. The reason we set boundaries is so that we could be useful. If you don't set boundaries, you will not be useful. Brenna Brown has a really great quote. I can't really remember it, but basically what boundaries helps me to do is to be 100% present in the moments that are most needed. So if I have boundaries, then, with my children, when it's time to be with my spiritual children or my mentees, I can be there 100%. When I have boundaries with my spiritual children or my children online and it's time to be with my family, I can be there 100%. You will never be able to be fully present if you do not have clear boundaries. All right. Someone said DTA has been a lifesaver. I'm learning a lot and I feel good. DTA is our Destiny Training Academy. So get on the wait list because we will have a 36-hour flash sale where you can get in there. And if you don't know what it is, every week you'll get 2 to 3 videos from me on a specific topic. And then you have live coaching and we walk you through 7 steps of destiny development, from your emotions to your family dynamics, to your finances, to your spiritual gifts, your purpose, your business, your career, to help you become fully who God has called you to become. So get ready for that. I am not raising the price up for this flash sale. It's $39 a month. And as long as you're part of it, you get all the information that we give you on a weekly basis. So it is life-changing. We have some phenomenal testimonies coming out of there. How to get support as a young adult with narcissistic parents. I would go to a therapist, go to your school counselor. I don't know if you are in school, go see a counselor, tell them the dynamics of your home. You probably will need to see a therapist so that you could have that support, and also get into a church, a good church community where you could just have an outlet, especially if you have to be home. And I don't think both your parents are narcissistic. People are using that word a lot, but they probably have some personality disorder stuff, or maybe they have some emotional stuff. It's possible that both could be narcissistic, but usually narcissists marry people that are like codependent, and they have a different type of something else going on there. All right. I want to set boundaries with mother-in-law because I'm no longer comfortable leaving my sons at her house, lack of supervision, safety. I'm wary of how to assert my change. It's not your job, actually. It's your husband's job. So in a marriage, if there are concerns, for example, she has concerns about her children's safety at her mother-in-law's house, she needs to tell her husband. Her husband needs to have the courage and the authority as the guardian over that house to be able to tell them. Now, if you're not married or you guys are divorced, you still need to tell them. Now, if they're not around, then it is your responsibility, obviously, for you to set those boundaries, but never apologize for that. What I would do is see if somebody else can be there with her so that you don't take the kids totally away from being there with her. You could also start by talking about some of your concerns, putting together some things that you would like to see changed, see if she implements them. If she does, then fine. If not, then you can go to the next level, which is moving them. Okay. Let's see. Yay, awesome. Practical things I can do to develop trust in God more. I'm not sure if you're in DTA. I feel like your name is familiar, but you may just have asked questions in this group. I would encourage you to sign up for that if it's feasible. Trusting God more is about dealing with an orphan spirit. The reason people don't trust God is they don't know who they are as sons. So I have lots of YouTube videos on sonship, but then you also have to get in a community that actually teaches it. And that's why if you're not in a church that understands true sonship, I'm not talking about sonship to a pastor, I'm talking about sonship to God, you need to get in an environment where you can reinforce it. That's why we created our Destiny Training Academy for people who are in churches or in communities that don't understand what true sonship to God looks like. When you master that, then the areas of mistrust get healed, and you learn how to trust God, and you learn how to see him as a father, and you learn how to walk with him. So you want to get in a community that reinforces that. And over time, by examining thoughts, good. All right. So you should be coming a long way. I felt like you were in DTA, Olivia. I feel like this is your 5th month. So if things are still not like clicking, then it has to do with your environment. So you have to really, really deal with that. And sometimes people have to go through therapy. If there's huge fractures in how they were raised, or they grew up in extremely chaotic environments, they have to work through some of the deep, deep stuff before they can even begin to see God differently. All right. I feel weird around people's parents, even as an adult. Are you saying other people's parents or your parents? I'm not sure what that means. All right. Any other questions? I'll take one more. So in the meantime, all those that want to learn how to create 5-figure to 6-figure businesses, products, we start our Wealth Transfer Academy next Thursday night. Registration is still open until Tuesday. So you can go to bit.ly/Wealth Transfer School and sign up for that. It is 8 weeks. It was 6 weeks to start with, and now I've made it 8 weeks because there's so much information I want to get to you guys and make sure that your businesses, your products are launching really, really well. So our Dream Interpretation course registration will open up for that January 25th. And we'll be back live here next Tuesday for our book study. So pick up the book, get ready to join us in DTA in February if you're not already a member. All right. Talk to you soon. Bless you guys. Bye-bye.